Think about the foundation of a house. Concrete, rebar, just completely unyielding.
Right, it's built to stay put.
Exactly. You build on it precisely because it is designed to never, ever move. And we depend entirely on that structural stability, right, to keep the roof over our heads. But the thing is, we tend to view our own identities through that exact same architectural lens.
Oh, absolutely.
You hear it all the time. People will say, I'm just not a morning person, or I've always been the anxious one in the group. We treat our personality, our physical presence, and our emotional habits as this poured concrete foundation. We act like our identity is a fixed law of physics.
But what if that foundation isn't concrete at all? I mean, imagine if instead of a rigid building, your identity operates much more like a river.
A river.
Yeah, a river. It certainly has a recognizable shape to anyone looking at it,
Mm.
but that shape is entirely dictated by fluid variables. The terrain it carves through, the speed of the water, the shifting of the seasons. A river is fundamentally structurally fluid.
I love that. And that fluidity is the entire focus of what we are getting into today. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are immersing ourselves in a really fascinating set of source materials, primarily anchored by a framework called How to Shapeshift 101.
Yeah, and just looking at that title, it sounds like a fantasy manual.
Right. You might be expecting a guide on how to, turn into a literal wolf under the full moon.
Which, spoiler alert, we are not doing.
Right. That is not what we are dealing with. This material actually presents one of the most profound, radical systems for personal transformation and reinventing your identity that I've ever encountered.
And our mission for this deep dive is to explore the mechanics of how we can consciously manipulate our physical, emotional, and psychological forms. We are going to examine what it actually takes to stop feeling fixed in place.
Because so many of us feel profoundly trapped, don't we?
We do. We feel stuck in the roles we play at work, or the bodies we inhabit, or even just the personal histories we drag around. This framework provides a literal step-by-step breakdown for profound personal change.
It's aiming to dismantle the illusion that who you were yesterday dictates who you have to be tomorrow.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we can talk about the practical steps of how to shift, we need to understand what exactly we are shifting. There is a crucial distinction made right up front regarding the definition of shape.
Right, because a shape is not just the physical silhouette of your body standing in a room.
It's not just your outline.
No, it encompasses a much broader spectrum of your existence. Your shape includes your rhythm of movement, the intensity of your gaze, your overall energetic presence. It's the subtle information other people process about you before you ever open your mouth to speak.
Wow. Okay.
And the framework introduces a concept called the equation of form. It says your beliefs plus your behaviors plus your memories plus your physical body equals your form.
Beliefs, behaviors, memories, body.
Right. And the foundational premise here is that every single variable in that equation is entirely malleable.
Which is wild, because humanity has wrestled with that malleability for thousands of years. I mean, the source material roots this urge to change in global mythology.
Oh, the mythic context is fascinating.
Take Loki in Norse mythology, constantly shifting gender and physical form to disrupt the established order of the gods. Or the kitsune in Japanese folklore, the multi-tailed fox spirit whose seductive wisdom intentionally blurs the boundary between human and animal.
Yeah, in almost every culture's mythology, the shapeshifter is a liminal figure. They exist on the boundaries. And because of that fluidity, they're considered incredibly dangerous.
Wait, dangerous why? Just because they're unpredictable?
Well, they're dangerous because they refuse to be neatly categorized. I mean, if an individual can change their fundamental nature, it forces everyone else to question the solidity of their own concrete foundations. It challenges the fixed world.
I see.
The framework actually warns that when you initiate a conscious shift, the resulting change in your presence might frighten the people around you. And honestly, it will likely disorient you as well. It's not a process initiated on a casual whim.
Right, you don't just wake up and do it for fun.
No, it usually begins with what the material describes as the call.
Yeah, the call. It involves very specific psychological and physical signs that you are overdue for a shift.
Like what?
Well, this might look like having incredibly vivid dreams where you inhabit a completely different physical body. It could be a sudden, inexplicable discomfort with your own appearance, like where the clothes you've worn for years suddenly feel like a stranger's wardrobe.
Oh, I think a lot of people have felt that.
For sure. You might experience abrupt changes in mood or instinct that, strangely, feel much more authentic than your normal self. It's that pervasive, nagging sense that you are an actor trapped in a role that was written for someone entirely different.
Which brings up an interesting dilemma. If you feel trapped in a role and decide to consciously change your shape, you might wonder if you're just putting on a different costume.
Yeah, that's the exact hurdle I hit when reading this. Like,
Yeah.
am I just putting a flashy new case on my phone, or is this process deeper?
Right.
To me, true shapeshifting would have to be like wiping the hard drive and downloading a completely new operating system that changes how the hardware fundamentally functions.
It is absolutely the operating system update. You are rewriting the code of how your nervous system and psychology interact with the world. But to do that, it requires absolute surrender to the process.
So where do you start?
Well, to even begin, you have to execute a ritual of permission. You have to consciously agree to the update.
And the source provides a specific spoken invocation to initiate this. You say aloud to yourself, I am not only what I seem.
I am not only what I seem, that's powerful.
You let that declaration land, and the process begins. And once we've accepted the invitation to change, the starting point is the most immediate, tangible tool at our disposal, the physical body and its grammar.
Right? This is termed the anatomy of form. Your body is essentially a continuous sentence written in muscle, bone, and breath. Every movement carries intent.
So you're basically talking with your body.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You are constantly broadcasting a narrative to the external world, and crucially, you are feeding that exact same narrative back into your own subconscious.
The mechanics of this are just fascinating. Posture, breath, and gaze are the primary tools. Posture literally determines how you interact with gravity.
How so?
Well, a slumped shoulder isn't just bad ergonomics, you know?
Yeah.
It tells your brain a biological story of defeat, exhaustion, or submission. An erect spine, on the other hand, signals readiness and structural integrity.
And breath operates similarly. Shallow, rapid breathing reflects anxiety, sure, but it also actively creates a tense, guarded musculature.
It's a feedback loop.
Exactly. Deep, slow breathing forces the nervous system to shift from a sympathetic fight-or-flight state to a parasympathetic rest-and-digest state, which physically softens the muscles.
And then you have your gaze. A direct, sustained gaze can empower you and command authority, while a downward or averted gaze signals deference, or even a biological need to protect the vital organs of the neck.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it like that. So to shift effectively, you first have to decode the story your physical habits are currently telling.
Which leads to the principles of shape law. There is an underlying physics to how we communicate our physical form.
Okay, what's the first law?
The first principle involves the interplay between symmetry and asymmetry. Symmetry in your posture, like standing, with weight evenly distributed, head straight signals balance, extreme control, and stability.
And asymmetry.
Asymmetry, like shifting your weight to one leg, leaning against a wall, tilting your head, that signals potential kinetic action, movement, and unpredictability.
That makes total sense. The second law states that intention precedes shape. Meaningful movement isn't random. An internal conscious desire must dictate the external form.
Right.
And the third law is particularly counterintuitive, I think. Limitation is a catalyst.
Wait, limitation?
Yeah, the very boundaries of your physical body. An injury,
Right.
stiffness, your specific height, they are not roadblocks. They are the forced parameters that demand you find entirely new neural pathways to move.
That's a great reframe. And voice morphing is another major component of this physical grammar. The material categorizes speaking into 3 zones: the head, the heart, and the gut.
Okay, break this down for me.
Head speaking is analytical, it's often faster and vibrates higher in the nasal cavity. Heart speaking drops lower, becoming more melodic, emotional, and geared toward connection.
And gut speaking.
Gut speaking drops the resonance all the way down to the diaphragm. It's that deep, vibrating, grounded tone that can instantly quiet a room. You can actually practice this through a mirror dialogue exercise, where you adjust your posture, slide your vocal resonance from head to gut, and literally observe the entirely new person looking back at you.
Okay, but let's address the natural skepticism that arises here.
Sure.
If you just pull your shoulders back, puff out your chest, and force your voice into a deep register before a big meeting, isn't that just fake it till you make it?
Right. It feels like it risks becoming a hollow performance. Like, doesn't consciously manipulating physical variables lack authenticity?
It seems that way until you understand the neurological feedback loop.
Hmm.
The framework views this as movement as spellcraft.
Movement is spellcraft.
Yeah. The premise isn't that you are faking a state you don't possess. Every physical shift is a localized change in reality. Your subconscious doesn't possess the intellectual ability to differentiate between fake confidence and real confidence.
Wait, really? It can't tell the difference?
Not at the base biological level, no. It simply reads the raw physical data, chest open, diaphragm expanded, oxygen flowing freely, and concludes, we are in a confident state.
Oh, wow.
It then releases the corresponding neurochemicals like testosterone and dopamine. You manifest the internal reality through the deliberate grammar of the body.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Manipulating posture and vocal cords is conscious, waking work. But what happens when our conscious control drops away?
Like when we're asleep.
Exactly. What happens when we sleep or when we are hit by a massive, sudden wave of emotion? The physical shifting has to be anchored by internal subconscious alchemy.
We must bridge the physical grammar and the subconscious grammar. A major portion of this process is dedicated to dream shifting.
Dream shifting.
Yeah, before a practitioner can fully stabilize a new shape in the waking world, they have to run simulations in the dream world. Lucid dreaming acts as a zero-consequence neural training ground.
I love how the source puts this. It says, the dream is the echo before the sound.
That's beautiful.
Your subconscious acts as an internal testing facility. It introduces the idea of totem forms. These are the shapes your subconscious defaults to when the limits of physical reality are removed.
Like an animal form.
Yeah, you might repeatedly dream of yourself as a specific animal, or moving fluidly between genders, or even existing as a pure element like fire or water. The dream initiates the neural pathways that the waking body will eventually adopt.
And once the subconscious simulation is complete, we move to waking emotional alchemy. This is a vital paradigm shift. Emotions are not passive reactions. They are kinetic forces that physically mold the body over time.
And the framework maps these emotions to elemental forces, right?
It does. Anger is fire. Sadness is water. Fear is air. Joy is light. Grief is earth.
This makes so much sense, because if you think about anger as fundamentally heat and kinetic energy, you realize you can't just think your way out of it.
Right, you can't logic away a fire.
Exactly. An emotion isn't just weather that happens to you. You are a blacksmith, and emotions are your raw materials. You don't just endure the fire of your anger. You use that fire to heat the rigid metal of your old identity so you can strike it and forge a new shape.
And to take that analogy further, you use the water of sadness to cool and temper that new form. In blacksmithing, quenching hot metal in water locks the molecular structure into place so it doesn't shatter under pressure.
Oh, that's incredible.
Letting yourself fully process grief or sadness is what stabilizes your new identity, making it resilient enough to handle the real world.
The text actually provides physical rituals for this processing. The flame dance for anger gives that fire a physical chimney. You burn off the excess cortisol and adrenaline through erratic, high-energy movement.
And for sadness.
The river sit for sadness allows you to experience the fluid weight of the emotion. It prevents you from trapping the elemental force in your tissues, which would create a physical block, completely stopping your ability to shapeshift.
And clearing those blocks leads to the next phase, which is called molting. This involves shedding personal memory. We construct our structural identities based on events that happened to us years or even decades ago.
You are not your past. That's the mantra for this phase. Memory is treated as a dead second skin. To truly shift, you must rewrite your own history, turning literal heavy memories into myth. You extract the wisdom and discard the emotional weight.
But if shedding our personal memory removes all of our specific human baggage, what exactly is left beneath it?
That is the big question.
The framework suggests that stripping away human history reveals a much older biological layer. This introduces one of the most radical concepts in the material: animal shapeshifting.
And just to be clear, this isn't about running around on all fours pretending to be a bear.
No, definitely not.
It is a primal return. It involves adopting a wild mindset, mimicking non-human movement patterns, and tuning your sensory awareness to match a more instinctual state. It's designed to break the rigid confines of being human to access entirely different bandwidths of awareness.
And from that biological foundation, the process tackles one of the most structurally rigid concepts in our society. Now, just to be clear for you listening, our job here isn't to endorse or take sides on any social or political debates.
Right. Our goal is simply to unpack the ideas presented in this source material.
Exactly. And within the philosophical framework of this text, it argues that gender is a learned shape.
It proposes that fluidity in expression, through movement, vocal resonance, and appearance, is a natural extension of personal autonomy. It essentially hands the reader a powerful permission slip.
You are allowed.
You are allowed.
Yeah, you are allowed to shift how you express yourself based on your internal reality rather than external expectation.
The material systematically dismantles every anchor we use to define ourselves. It moves into time shifting, suggesting we can access past and future versions of ourselves, treating time as a fluid landscape.
And elemental merging.
Right, the realization that the carbon, water, and electrical heat in your nervous system mean you are already physically composed of earth, water, and fire. And all of this dismantling culminates in the climax of the process, unnaming yourself. The instruction is to strip away every label, every memory, every social context, and simply rest in the void. Now, reading through that, it sounds incredibly destabilizing.
It really does.
If I strip away my name, my history, and my entire human context, what is actually left? Don't we risk losing our grip on reality entirely?
Well, it is a terrifying prospect for the human ego, which clings to definitions for survival. But the philosophical payoff hinges entirely on navigating this void.
Okay, how so?
It argues that unnaming is not about loss, it is about discovery. By resting in that emptiness, you realize that what you call your identity is just a temporary shelter you built. You discover the infinite consciousness beneath it.
The shelter, not the foundation.
Exactly. You realize that you are not the specific form you currently inhabit. You are the consciousness that chooses the form. You are the shift itself.
You are the shift itself. Wow. So what does this all mean for you listening to this right now? How do we take all this wild, formless, elemental energy and actually, go to the grocery store or sit in a staff meeting?
Right. How do you live with it?
Yeah, how do we integrate this without completely unraveling in our daily routines?
The source material addresses practical integration thoroughly. It discusses navigating public spaces through microshifts. You don't need to walk into an office building channeling the primal, kinetic energy of a predator.
That would probably get you fired.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Instead, you learn when to cloak to blend in, drop your energetic signature, and observe, and when to shine.
Shine, meaning expanding your posture, lowering your vocal resonance, and taking up space to lead.
Exactly. It's about choosing your visibility rather than defaulting to it. To keep from losing your equilibrium, you have to stabilize the shift. You anchor your new form physically and emotionally until it simply becomes your baseline operating system.
It requires practice until the new neural pathways overwrite the old ones.
And an incredible side effect of this stabilization is how it impacts your environment. The material emphasizes that you never force change on others. Instead, you influence them through resonance.
Resonance, like a tuning fork.
Exactly like a tuning fork. When you strike a tuning fork and hold it next to another, the second one will begin to vibrate at the exact same frequency. When you hold a clear, powerful, intentional physical and emotional shape, the people around you will naturally begin to adjust their own neurological states in response.
You lead through presence without applying force. It's a commitment to continuous creativity, ensuring you are never stagnant again, which brings us to the final spell in the text.
The spoken incantation to close the internal work.
Yeah, and open the rest of your life. It goes like this. I am many. I am none. I am new in every breath. I do not belong to form. Form belongs to me. I am the shapeshifter, the one who remembers, the one who becomes. I shift, I shift, I shift.
It is a profound reclamation of absolute autonomy over your own existence.
It really is. As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a completely new way to look at this. We've spent this entire time talking about shifting our physical bodies and emotional states in the real world. But think about the digital avatars we use every single day.
Oh, that's a great point. Our profile pictures, our anonymous handles, our video game characters.
Right. We are already practicing a highly advanced form of shape-shifting in the digital realm. We try on new skins, adopt new voices, and switch genders or species in virtual spaces without a second thought.
We do it constantly.
Our brains are already entirely comfortable with the concept of rewriting our code and unnaming ourselves online. So if your consciousness is already that fluid, and if it's that easy to reinvent yourself in a digital space, well, what is actually stopping you from doing it in the physical world tomorrow? We'll leave you to think about that.